today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about how to take a stand for what you believe in and still create harmony in your marriage. When you know when you need to stand, what you stand for, and how to stand for it, that will inform you as where to say no. That will inform you as to when to say yes. Clarity, not control, is what builds trust. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about where you stand, how to draw a line without burning the bridge. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm going to tell you, I have done this the wrong way, and I have done this the right way. And I have hundreds of clients who have done this the wrong way and learned how to do it the right way. And the wrong way, just see my way or the highway. The right way is something completely different. You've tried to keep the peace by giving in because we know my way or the highway doesn't work, but now you are invisible in your own marriage. What does that mean, invisible in your own marriage? It means that if she asks you to do stuff and you do it and it's never good enough or it's never enough or there's always more. I know you know what I'm talking about. All of us have had this experience. Here's the hope though. Clarity, not control, is what builds trust. When you know when you need to stand, what you stand for, and how to stand for it, that will inform you as where to say no. That will inform you as to when to say yes. It'll help you discover what to stand for and when. It'll help you to become the man that your partner respected and felt safe with when she said, I do. And I want to be really clear. This safety piece in marriage is way more than physical safety. On a gut level, at an unconscious level, it may feel like that to your partner, right? But it's about emotional safety, right? We as men are learning how to say, no, I don't agree with this, and yes, I agree with this, without making it unsafe. That's the key. And the fact is that in the rest of our lives, right, you go to work, if you're a manager or a leader in some way, shape, or form, there are no soft no's. You can't say, gee, Tom, no, taking a week off at that time really isn't going to be good. I hope you don't do it. You just can't be like that. You need to be firm. Tom, if you take that week off, not only is it going to be bad for the company, but it's going to be bad for you. The thing is, we take that attitude home with us sometimes. And so this episode is about how to separate out the kind of leader we need to be when we're working with other men or when we're working in institutions that don't recognize gender. Because let's be honest, today, institutions, we're supposed to be gender blind. If we're not, we're at risk. It's a liability to see gender at work today. There's a leader who shows up there that's very different than the leader who shows up in the marriage in some ways, or maybe not. You listen to this episode and you let me know. The purpose here is for us to explore together how to set boundaries that are in integrity with ourselves and still allow us to lead in the direction that we want to go. And what I mean by lead, this is more like, we're hiking with our wives and there's a fork in the road and you say, I've been down that road and there's a bear cave down there and I'm a little scared to go down there. I don't think we should go there. And she says, no. There's a blackberry bush down there that I really want to go to. You have to know in that moment, how are you going to lead? We want boundary setting to be rooted in self-awareness. We want it to be guided by values, and we want it to be executed with, how do I put this in a way that is very receivable? We want to do it in a way that honors the sensitivity of our wives, right? We have a tendency to run our tracks right over things that they're very sensitive about. And so we need to have some awareness and understanding of their sensitivities so that we can work through those with them instead of tiptoeing around them or bending ourselves into a pretzel because we just don't want to deal with the reaction when those sensitive areas are touched. This episode's all about that. It's about how to lead with strength and softness, how to both protect, provide, and serve, and when to hold the line and how to hold the line while it matters, while empowering your partner at the same time, right? So we can do this. We can do this without saying, Gwen, I'm telling you, there's a freaking bear down there, and that bear loves those blackberries. And if we're not going down there. If we go down there, it's over. Right? We're going to explore how to work with Gwen. I'm Brad in this case. How to work with Gwen about that blackberry bush and that bear in a way that honors her process. That's probably the best way to put it. We got our way of doing things. They've got their way of doing things. If we try to drive them down our way of doing things, they feel disrespected, manipulated, and controlled. We want to take that out of the mix. So, she asked you to be less controlling, and so you backed off. But now you feel like a ghost in your own marriage. And what do I mean by that? You're an automaton doing whatever she says. Who you are is absent. You're like one of those, I don't know if I've been playing with AI a lot. And every AI I play with, regardless of the source, has this in common. They all affirm the crap out of me. If I say that having multiple sexual partners is good, the AI says awesome. If I say that monogamy is good and having multiple sexual partners is bad, the AI says awesome. No matter what I say, it basically agrees with me. Oh, it might throw in some contradictory ideas if I'm encouraging it to, but in the end, whatever I decide on, it says, great idea, Rich. That's gold. No matter what AI I use, it seems to do that. That's how we show up when we hear, don't be so controlling, and we just do what we're told. Dr. Robert Glover calls this nice guy syndrome. He's got a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's an amazing book. If I could ever get this guy on this podcast, I'm going to, because I just honor and revere his writing. And we've all experienced this. We have all twisted ourselves into pretzels trying to please her, even going against what we know is best, just so that we can live by the saying, happy life, happy life. Nice guy syndrome is founded on the myth, happy wife, happy life. Well, it's not a myth. It's the way it's been interpreted. Nice guy syndrome interprets happy wife, happy life as whatever she asks for, I need to give her, even if it's contradictory. Really accommodating happy wife, happy life means getting what she wants, right? Partners don't always say what they want. They hope that we'll know. What she wants is the guy she was dating. The guy who would bend over backwards for her, but had a backbone. The guy who would do anything to help her needs be met, but not compromise himself to do it. Somebody who is not a shadow with a smile. Somebody who is his own man. That's what she wanted. What she fell in love with was a guy who was decisive. What she fell in love with was a guy who was going somewhere. What she fell in love with was someone who she felt would know what to do in situations where she wasn't sure. And when we're always trying to please her and always doing what she asks and trying to guess what she wants, we can't be that person. So let me tell you a story. Actually, I'm going to change this story. I had a case study for you, but I'm going to tell you a personal story. How about that? Woo! My wife and I, we met at college. Well, she didn't like me when we went to college together, but we got reacquainted at a reunion and fell in love and got married. And so we got very involved with college reunions after that. We wanted to honor the place where our love really took root. And finally, after going to a large number of college reunions at our college, we decided that we were going to chair a reunion. And we knew what worked and what didn't work because we had been not only to our reunion, but other classes' reunions where we had had friends, a small college. So we knew a lot of people in a lot of classes. And we'd seen what worked and what didn't, right? We had the college reunion blueprint for that time in human history. If you ever want it, call on me because I'll tell you how it works. I don't know what it is today, though. It's probably changing a lot. And honestly, that blueprint is probably grounded in a certain generation. right? A younger generation or an older generation might use a slightly different blueprint. But anyway, we had the blueprint and were getting on calls with people and they were being very contrary. I knew what was right. I had the blueprint and my wife knew too. We had created this blueprint together. And one day I sent out this email to all the people who had volunteered by accident. I sent it to the person from the college who was working with us, but I accidentally copied everyone in the group. And it said, it's my way or the highway. These folks can do it with me or not. And guess what happened? They all dropped off. All of them. Now, I plowed ahead anyway. And my wife, being a good partner, stayed in there with me. By the way, she was like 6 months pregnant, right? So this was not easy for her, but she showed up with me. She was fully engaged. She's like an awesome partner. She honored my stand. And she saw that I put my foot in it and that I regret it, but there was no cleaning it up. And the reunion came off of that hitch because we had the blueprint. But the other leaders who wanted to be involved, who were put off by me, they weren't fully present. And they didn't have as good a time as they could. And they took joy in the fact that I and my wife had to work extra hard because they weren't involved. This is kind of like a great example of what happens when we take a stand the wrong way. It's my way or the highway. One of two things happen. Either people check out like these people do, or they go along with it like these people did, but their heart isn't in it. That's what happens with our wives when we do that. When we say, babe, this is it. It's my way or the highway. And she says, all right, I'm going with you on it. She's not all in. We didn't get her buy-in, just like I didn't get their buy-in. All right. And you may be 100% right. I was 100% right about the blueprint for college reunions. But you know what I missed? I missed the heart of the college reunion. The heart of the college reunion is that everyone loves being there and has minimal hidden agenda and appreciates one another. And because accidentally took a my way or the highway stand with these people, but even if it hadn't come out in writing, it would have come out in the way I acted because I was a kind of dictatorial about it. All right. I took some of the joy out of that experience for them. And yeah, I got to put a feather in my cap and say, ha ha, we did a good job without you. But the people who participated did not enjoy it as much as they would have if these folks had been involved, engaged, and having a good time instead of hoping that we were going to misstep. That's how it is in our marriages. When we have to be really careful how to take the lead. And true leaders know when they're the right person to lead and how to lead. And true leaders know when to follow. And the truth is, in that situation, if I had listened to those people who wanted to participate, and if I had said to them, hey, this is the blueprint, what do you think we can do within this blueprint, and allowed them to bring their joy to that process, it probably would have been a much richer experience, a much better experience for everyone. We all would have grown closer together. So what I'm saying to you is, yeah, identify your strengths. Yeah, identify logic, identify the structure, have big picture planning, but also identify with hers, or in the case of my story, theirs. By the way, this was Vassar College. There were a lot of women in that group. Her strengths lie in sensitivity to the other people there. Her strengths lie in having a sense of, are they feeling good? Are they feeling bad? Her strengths lie in, are they bought in? Are they not? She'll have intuitions about other players as you move forward that you won't. She will see the impact of the choice in ways that you won't. So let's go back to the blueberry bush and the bear. You say to her, there's a bear over there. I know there's a blackberry bush, excuse me. I know there's a blackberry bush over there, but there's a bear over there. But maybe she knows more about bears than you do. She says, you know what? It's the middle of winter. And the last of the blackberries are on that middle of winter. That doesn't work. But she says, it's the middle of summer. And bears don't wander around much in the middle of summer. And the blackberry bush is just a few feet in. And, if we see the bear, I know what to do. And maybe you talk it through. Wow, that doesn't sound very believable to me. Honestly, as the guy, I'm still like, God, if I saw a bear, I'm not going to kick its ass. It outweighs me by 200 pounds. What if it's got cubs? That might be some of the conversation, but you have a whole conversation with your partner about it. Hey, I know blackberries are cool and everything, but bears are really scary. Or maybe she knows that bear in the middle of the summer forages in a different part of the woods. And she knows that because she's been down that path before and she's hit that blackberry bush before. And so you go, all right, as long as you know that, because your job is to protect. But if the perceived threat isn't real, then you don't need to protect, right? The point is to trust her intuitions, to trust her knowledge of the behavior of others and where others are, because the fact is that women have a much better barometer when it comes to this than guys. We're really good at, this is where we're going, this is what we need to do to get there, and this is the best road, but it might not be the best road. Right? When you lean into her and you tap her barometer, she might say, no, this way really is better. It's about learning to consult each other like trusted advisors. It's about knowing who's the natural consultant based on domain. Let's throw out gender for a second. What are her strengths and what are yours? So let's talk a little more about how to do this in a way that where you can say, listen, honey, about that bear, I heard somebody was attacked on that path last week. I'm just not going there. How to communicate that to her in a way where she can get it and where she feels validated. Part of that is to understand that you need to explore her perspective before you lay down an ultimatum. You don't even want to lay down an ultimatum before you make a decision about yourself and your own choices. And to do that, you really need to understand your strengths and hers. So here's an exercise for you. I want you to to get out a piece of paper. You can pause this podcast right now and do this, or you could do it later, but I want you to do this. And I want you to put on the top our strengths as a couple. And you're going to draw a line down the middle of the paper. And on one side, there's going to be you. And the other, let's say you're Brad. And on the other side, there's going to be her, or let's say Gwen. Like those are the names I use for guys and gals when I tell stories, usually, except for when it's about me. Maybe I should have made the story about Brad and Gwen, but I just couldn't resist sharing something personal. So put that up there. And right now, I just want you to write out, what are your strengths? What are you really good at? What is she really good at? And don't forget the things that I was just talking about men being very goal-oriented and women being more ecological. That's important too. And whenever you have to make a decision, right, I want you to go back to this sheet of paper. Maybe you're going to do it on a spreadsheet. I don't know. And I want you to think about what's the thing that you're making a decision about and lean into her about it. Lean into her strengths about it. Think about what are her strengths and what are yours. But lean into her strengths because you're going to have a tendency to just go with yours. That's what we do. Let's go back to that lovely episode of the college reunion. Had I consulted my wife before I sent that email, she would have said to me, honey, I know you have the way. And I'm laughing because how many times in my life have I had the way and not been quite right about it? And think about what this is really about, right? This is about having a good time with these people, right? We took this on to give back to this group of people, to celebrate that we got married and are having a child together as a result of these unions. And we wanted to honor this. So the way to honor this is to play with them. Right? If I showed that email to her, she would have sat me down and reworked it. Because that's one of her strengths, by the way. She's really good at seeing through the other people's eyes and walking in their shoes. She's really good at helping me identify where I'm being a little self-centered and power hungry. And she helps me redirect that to what is really important to me is the community. She's really good at that. So make those two columns and use that. Now, the core idea that we're working with here is we want to move off of positions and operate from principles, or what they say in 12-step programs is they say put principles before personalities, which is I kind of like that better. And what I like about that is I described you in that situation. My personality, my nature at that time was to take territory and squash, right? But my wife would have called out the principle. The principle was celebration, honoring, sharing our victory with these folks. Anytime that we're at a fork in the road and she wants to go pick blackberries where there might be a bear, and you're trying to get to the top of the mountain, which is the goal you've set for each other, and she says, we can have it all, right? Anytime you're there, it's really easy to get locked into your role as the protector. No, it's dangerous. I'm not doing it. Can't you see this is where we're going? But you want to get down to the principle. And the principle of protection is what? The reason why people protect is not so much to preserve as to create an environment where everyone can blossom and grow. When we protect at the expense of nurturing or serving, then we contradict the principle of protection. So going back to Gwen and Brad we're going up the mountain, Brad says, it's too dangerous. Gwen says, no, I know for a fact that the bear goes to the other side of the mountain this time of year. And by the way, why are we even on a mountain if there's a bear here? If you're so worried about the bear, what are we even doing on this mountain? Obviously we know enough, we've learned enough about the bear, and there've been no bear attacks here, that it's okay. And the blackberry bush is only a few feet in, and we really could use some sustenance, and it's good for us to eat off the land. It's a good experience for us. It connects us to the land. It's a spiritual experience for me, Brad. I got to do it. And you say, all right, you compromise there not to avoid conflict, right? You compromise there. You've had the conflict, actually. You said to her, it's unsafe. You haven't had a conflict. You've had a disagreement. And you allowed her in that process to share her knowledge and her experience, and you processed it, and you shared your knowledge and experience, and she processed it. And in the end, you went with her on it. What if it had been the other way? What if she said, well, the bear is usually on the other side of the mountain this time of year, and you said, you know what? I read that somebody was attacked by that bear going to that blackberry bush, and I just won't do it, honey. What if that was the situation? And you said, instead of saying it the way I just said it, you said, Gwen, somebody was just attacked by that bear. I just read about it. I mean, thank God nothing happened to him, but look, I'm just not going to take that kind of chance. With our future, I'm just not going to do it. Gwen, you're coming with me. No matter what, I won't let you go there, right? That would be like a position. But if you were working on the principle of protection and the principle of honoring her process, you might say it the way I said it the first time. You might say, hey, Gwen, I read this about a bear attack over there on about a mile down the road there. And I know the blackberry bush is a lot closer than that, but I just don't feel like we should take a chance. And I don't feel like if we go down that path and something happens with the bear, I don't feel like I can protect you from that bear. I just don't think it's a good idea. And I don't think I'm going to go. And I hope that you will stick with me on this. Please, I would feel so much better about you and your safety if you would stick with this. If I had my rifle and I felt like I could take the bear, I'd go with you, but I don't. Like this risk, I just feel like it's too great. The chances are Gwen would say, wow, that's so sweet. I don't agree with you, but I love you and I hear you and I'm going to go with you. And by the way, we can buy some blackberries at the market on the way home, right? How you take that stand is everything. It's everything. So in the last episode, or maybe it was the episode before, we talked about values and principles. I want you to think about what are 3 principles, core principles that you will not back down on. Number 1, all 3 of them. And then I want you to think about, were you to stand for those principles? By the way, a principle you won't back down on is one where if you did it, you feel like you were cutting off a hand. In that case, Brad just knows the risk of the blackberries, because he knows there's been a bear attack and he knows he can't defend Gwen from a bear. It's a lose. There's no win there for him. He just knows it. And he knows even if he goes with her and they eat the blackberries and don't get attacked and then go back, even if he's wrong, he knows that taking that kind of risk will not work for him in his life and he refuses to do it. So it's about the principle of risk. And so he communicates it to her in a way where she can receive it. What are 3 three core principles, three core values that you won't compromise on, and that you're willing to say, all right, look, if you're going to do that, you're going to do that alone. And I'll be here when you come back. And then I want you to ask, do I argue? I don't want you to ask, do I argue? I want you to ask, how would I communicate that principle in a way where she could receive it, right? And inevitably, communicating a principle in a way she can receive it involves the following. Number one, it involves honoring her process. Number two, explaining the principle, not the personality position. My position is we don't do things that put us at high risk, and that's high risk. And number three, what emotion will you use to express the principle? So by taking it out of the realm of personality and going to principle, what emotion will you use? You'll use, right? If you want her to receive it, it needs to be something where she feels safe, where she feels validated, where she feels cared for. If you want her to receive it, it needs to be, you show your concern for her, even if she thinks that concern's unfounded. The fact that you have the concern, it needs to show your fear of the outcome if that principle is violated in some way. What that would do to you personally, even if nothing happened, how you would feel personally if you violated the principle, how you would feel if you violated the principle and something did happen, if you and Gwen went down the road and were in the middle eating blackberries were attacked by a bear. You need to communicate all of that. The feeling, how I'd feel. I would feel so scared. I would feel so powerless that I couldn't protect you from that bear. I would feel so afraid in that moment. I'm Gwen, get it. I would give my life for you, but I'm not sure I want to give my life over blackberries. Right? If you lay it out that way, in a way that she can receive it, all the feelings around it, she's much more likely to receive it. Right? That is how you take a stand, how you draw a line and build respect and not distance. All right. So this has been a long one. I'm really sorry. But I feel that, and I could go longer with this, but here's your challenge. Here's a challenge for this week. I want you to think about what's the last argument, the last big fight you and Gwen, your Brad, had, you and your wife had. Or if you're a woman listening to this and you figure I'm the husband whisperer, and I am the husband whisperer, by the way, I can talk your guys through this. If you're a woman listening to this, what was the last fight that you had? And what principle were you defending? Or if you're the wife, what principle do you think was under the position? Usually a big fight, you both have positions that you're holding, and under it is going to be a principle for both of you. What were the principles that work? I want you to think about not only what was your principle, but what was their principle. All right. And then I want you to, if you feel it's safe enough, go back to them and say, hey, that last fight we had, I was listening to this guy's podcast and I was thinking about it. And I know that the reason why you felt so strongly about that was there's a core principle at work here about. And I want you to know that even though I don't agree with you about that situation, I honor that principle too, or that value also. Validate the principle and see what happens. Okay. That's it for now. I've given you a call to action, but I'm going to give you another one. We'd love you to subscribe if you like what you're hearing here. We'd love to hear from you what you want to hear about. Hey, we've got a Facebook group for men called, what is it called? It's called Men, Masculinity and Marriage. This is really only for men, ladies. And this Facebook group is a place where guys can get together who have a shared ambition for their marriage. It's not a competitive space, right? It's a place where we're all looking to better ourselves so we can better our marriages. And so check it out if you're interested. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and an awesome tomorrow.